Hi guys, I'm Jose Blanco. We're doing the F4 US Championship Winning Wednesday live. So I'm gonna start by saying brief introduction about myself. Um, so I'm 17 years old. I'm from Guaynabo, Puerto Rico. I currently race. This is my first year in F4 US Championship. I started racing when I was 9. Um, so how I got there, my dad, he had a friend that he owned the track, so he told my dad to bring me to the track, and I was super excited. My dad, he's been racing his whole life, so I really wanted to follow in his footsteps, and he that day he brought me to the track. I was super happy, and it was raining, so it was my first experience in a go kart, and I was like not nervous, but I was like super excited. And the guy, he told my dad, "Whoa, your son, he's really talented. He can, you should buy him a cart." And that's how I my dad eventually bought me a cart, and I just kept through the ladders. Um, yeah, so last year I made the step from karting to open wheel. I competed in Lucas Oil Racing School and did the full season. I competed in the racing series, and I finished third. So it was a good first season for me in open wheel. And this year I made the jump to F4. Uh, so I'll briefly give you guys a summary of my season and in detail. So the season started off in Virginia and VIR. So yeah, it was really just excited to be my first weekend with a new team and new teammates. I would say it was a pretty decent first weekend to start. Um, we qualified ninth, and then in the first race, I managed to get seventh place, so that was really good. In the second race, I started 15th and managed to get 10th place, so I got in the points. That was really good. And the third race, I was running sixth place, but unfortunately had an incident with another driver, and that put me out of the running for points. So yeah, I would say that was unfortunate, but decent weekend to start. So in Road Atlanta, I would say that was my best weekend so far in the season. I qualified fourth for the first race, so we had some problems with the radiator, and we didn't really manage to accomplish what we set out to. But we finished fifth. I thought that was pretty okay, considering we were really fast. I thought we should have gotten more more points, but yeah, that was fine. For the second race, I started fourth and I managed to finish third. Uh, yeah, so that was really good. I had a really good fights with Benjamin and James Raven, so that was really good. And in the last race, third race, that was probably the highlight of my season. Uh, I managed to win the race. I started second, and I passed the quota on the start, and just managed the race all through there. So yeah, I would say that was the highlight of my season. So coming to Mid Ohio, difficult weekend, really. Just tough. Yeah, probably my worst weekend in my profession racing career. Sorry. Um, yeah, I just really struggled to find a really good setup with the car. Uh, and yeah, in the second free practice, I crashed, so that really set me back for the whole weekend. And yeah, I didn't really do well in the coming races. In the first race, I started 22nd, so yeah, really far back. Unfortunately, we didn't get many green flag running. Most of the race was yellow flag, so yeah, that was pretty bad. Um, for the second race, I started 17th, and I was making good progress. I passed like four cars in the first couple of laps, but then some car in front of me started leaking oil, and I spun behind him. Nothing I could do about it, so that was pretty unfortunate. And then uh, I was back to like 24th, something like that, and I crashed again. So that was really bad, and unfortunately, the damage done to the car was too much that I couldn't race for the third race. That was really unfortunate. So yeah, difficult weekend for me. Uh, I'm looking to bounce back for Pittsburgh. So uh, yeah, now you know a little bit about me. I'm gonna be answering some of the submitted questions now. If anybody has any questions during the session, feel free to type them in, and I'll answer them as I go. Uh, Also, I have a one fan who win a so yeah, make sure to stay tuned throughout the session. So maybe it could be you. Um, so uh, the first question is from my teammate Joshua Carr on Facebook. Uh, it says, "Which racetrack across the world do you most want to drive on?" So that's really a tough question. I mean, there are a lot of racetracks that are great. I I watch a lot of different series, so that's really that's a really tough question. But I would say that probably my favorite racetrack that I would prefer to drive on is the Spa Francorchamps. It's really nice. I think that uh, tracks like Suzuka in Japan is those tracks like they have a lot of corners, fast corners, and just seeing like Formula One cars and sports cars run through those tracks, it's really amazing how fast they go through the corners. And yeah, so I think my first choice would definitely be Spa, and then probably Suzuka. Um, I see a lot of you are tuning in, so that's good. I um yeah. So my next question is from Fernation20 on Instagram. How old were you the first time you drove a race car, and what was it? So the first time I drove a race car was last year when I was 16. I drove a F1600 in Lucas Oil Racing Series. Uh, yeah, so I did the full season there. So I raced that car the whole season. It was a really fun car to drive, and I think like for to start to make the transition from go karts to open wheel, it was a good starting base, and that it has really helped me through my F4 season. So another question from Instagram by Snow Cobra. Um, any interest in racing sports cars? I would say that yeah, definitely. Sports cars is another kind of ladder in motorsports, but it's a really important one. They have, I think, the three biggest races are the Indy 500, uh, Monaco Grand Prix, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and that is definitely a very iconic race and something that definitely interests me. I would say that right now my priority is to get to the. I would love to get one day to Formula One or IndyCar. It's my goal. So that right now is on the top of my head, but definitely sports cars is interesting. I think Ligier, one of the sponsors in my series in the F4 United States, it's a really has some really good opportunities. They are really they compete in um, a lot of iconic races, so that is really good. Um, and one of the if some of the cars I would like to drive, I would say the Porsche 911 RSR. That looks really cool. Um, I would say the Ferrari 488 GT, and obviously LMP1 and those types of cars. Okay, so now I'm gonna be taking some of the live questions. So if any of you have some questions, just type them in. I'll answer them as I go. Mm, So the first question is from Gisela Joey Kilicini. It says, if you were to buy a car for yourself, which would it be? If I was to buy a car for myself, I would say that um, probably I really like the GT2 RS Porsche. It's really proper race car. It just got out this year and it broke the Nürburgring track record. Well, actually, the it got broken again, but uh, that for being a road car, I would say that car is definitely top of my list. Um, definitely a Ferrari or some type of Mercedes, probably C63. Um, yeah, so those are a little bit of the cars that I would buy for my first cars. Another question here from Eric Neary says, "What inspired you to become a race car driver?" I would say that probably my dad. My dad, he was like my racing hero from the beginning. It was because of him that I started racing in go karts, and yeah, I would say as I grew and knew more about the sports, I knew more about the history, and it really like interested me, and I just kept. And obviously, I'm very passionate about it, so I just kept, yeah, climbing through the ladders and evolving. Um, so I'm gonna go back to the submitted questions now. As I said, if any of you have any more questions, just type them into the session and I'll answer them as I go. The next question is from Instagram by Mateos Digital. He says, Fortnite or baby bottle pops? Um, interesting question. I would say Fortnite, although actually I don't play a lot. So yeah, Fortnite. Um, I have another one here from Instagram from Alejandro Blanco. What would you say are your strengths and weaknesses on track? Um, I would say my strengths would definitely be braking and passing. I would say those are my at the top of my list. I think that you always have something to improve on when you're a racing driver. You can never get complacent. So I definitely have a lot of things to improve, but I would say those are my strengths. And then for my weaknesses, um, I would say probably the main thing I'm working on right now is like not to get too frustrated if things don't go well, or yeah, like in Mid Ohio, I didn't have a great weekend, and it just really like carried me off, and sometimes I wasn't 100% concentrated, or yes, that sort of stuff. So I would say probably yeah, frustration sometimes gets to me, but I would say that that's like to every driver, but it's up to them to control it. So that's something I'm working on. Um, from Amy G on Instagram, who is the biggest jokester on your team and why? I think that the biggest jokester on the team is probably between Dave and Michael. Those are my Dave is like the mechanic of the whole team. He's like the the guy that every mechanic goes to. They have a question or something like that, and Michael, he's my lead mechanic. Yeah, so they just crack a lot of jokes, and before races, sometimes if I'm like not nervous, but if I'm like quiet or something, they will just make a joke and make me laugh. So yeah, that's I think, but I think probably I think I'll give the edge to Dave, but definitely those two guys. Um, the next question is from Kimberly on Snapchat. Do you have a pre-race ritual? Um, I would say that not really. Uh, Other than probably like getting on the left hand side of the car, but not really. I just like to focus, and I really don't like listen to music or something before a race. Just basic stuff like get to the grid and uh, get on the car and just check normal things like talk to your engineer or something like that if something needs to be done, or yeah, but no, nothing really special. I'll go back to the live questions now. So if you guys have any more questions, just type them in. The next question is from Jose Blanco. That's my dad. What is your goal for Pittsburgh? I would say my goal, well, definitely I want to win, and I go into every race weekend uh, aiming, striving to win. I think if if any driver doesn't go to a weekend with a striving to win, then he's not a racing driver, or he shouldn't be in the sport. Um, but yeah, definitely to just like keep improving, get better, and just get to the groove faster. I think Mid Ohio was like a really tough weekend for me, but at the same time, it was a great lesson that I think I can take a lot of positives from, although the result wasn't really great. But yeah, I think definitely aim for some good points. The next question is from Eric Neary. Who do you think is the best driver in Formula One right now, and why? I think that's a really hard question because uh, right now, like in Formula One, you have the top teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, and then you have like a drop off. You have like the Renaults of the world, Haas, Force India, Toro Rosso, those kinds of teams. And then when you have so much difference in the grid, then it's really hard to tell like which driver, like you wouldn't know if you put this or this driver in that type of car, and then the job he would do. So it's really hard right now, but I would say right now I really like Lewis Hamilton. I think he's probably doing the best job right now, and obviously he's in a Mercedes is like one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest. But yeah, I think everything has had to overcome in his life, and just the obstacles he continues to overcome, and yeah, he's for me the best driver right now. But I think guys like Fernando Alonso, they're definitely worthy of consideration. Sebastian Vettel, uh, actually, I like Vettel a lot because he races for Ferrari, so that's my favorite team. So I root for him. But I think right now Hamilton is probably at the top of my list. Um, Another one from Marcos Bento. He says Senna or Schumacher. Ooh, that's a hard one. I think. Well, I mean, both of them are great in their own respect. I think that Senna is probably more. I would say Senna is probably faster than Schumacher and better in the wet. But I think Schumacher. Well, Schumacher definitely accomplished more, but Senna died young, so uh, that's something to consider. But I would say Schumacher, he was like the first guy I saw when I was growing up. So I think for me, just seeing him like accomplish the 7 world titles, all the race wins, and the poles, then that is like wow. You think like wow, that's the best driver I've ever seen. But obviously the old school guys, they watch Senna and they tend to say Senna. But yeah, it's a hard one. I think probably I have to go with I probably have to go with Schumacher because he was the most I saw because I didn't see Senna. I wasn't born when he was racing. Obviously, I've watched videos and some of his highlights, but it's not the same as if you're watching it and live and like seeing wow, this guy is like really fast. But definitely, I think Senna is more iconic. He impacted a lot of lives in all of the world, and it was very tragic. His death, especially in Brazil. And yeah, I have my teammate Arthur Least. He's Brazilian. He tells me like he's super revered in Brazil, and he's like the like a god in Brazil. So yeah. Um, Another question from Camila Blanco says, which Formula One racetrack is your favorite? Well, I already said in the beginning that probably Spa is the best, my favorite track, and the track I would love to drive on the most. But I think that definitely Circuit of the Americas, and we get the opportunity to drive there this year with F4, and Formula One is gonna be there, so that's gonna be a really big event. Uh, yeah, so that's really good. I think probably that's my favorite track right now, but I would definitely love to drive in Spa too. I think I'll go back to the submitted questions now. So if you guys have any more, just keep them typing in. The next question is from Javi Del Valle 921 on Instagram. How do you think you can be in the top five this season? Um, I think that well, I think coming out of Real Atlanta, I was already top five in the championship. But yeah, I think that it's gonna definitely gonna be hard. I mean, there are a lot of great drivers like Dakota, Christian Rasmussen, Benjamin Peterson, James Raven, and there there are other guys as well in the mix. But yeah, I definitely think I'm confident in my abilities. I think if I put my mind to it and just like every weekend get into the groove and yeah, just really concentrate. I definitely think I can reach the top five. The next question is from Paola Del Valle on Instagram. What is your favorite karting memory from Puerto Rico? Um, I think that well, I had a I've had the pleasure of having a lot of like a lot of karting memories, not just from Puerto Rico, but I raced it internationally and in the United States. So that's really hard for me. But I would say in Puerto Rico, definitely the Grand Prix we had in Guaynabo City, like 3 or 4 years ago. It was a really big event. Um, one of the friends of ours, Blanco, he had cancer that year, and we did that event in his we dedicated the event in his name, and he he is already healed. He doesn't have cancer anymore. And the next year, he went on to race again. So uh, I think that was my best memory from karting in Puerto Rico. And then from Gabe Vargas Racing on Facebook, who is your celebrity crush? Um, that's a tough one. I think ooh, there are a lot of them, but probably top of my mind, I would say Jennifer Lopez. Probably, um, yeah. I think Zuleika Rivera too. She's from Puerto Rico. She was Miss Universe in 2006, I think. So yeah, I think those right now are my top of my head. um, I think so. Now I'll go back to some of the live questions. I see there are a lot of them right now here, so I'll try to answer them all of them. I see a lot of people here asking how old was I when I started go karting. I was 9 years old. Uh, just to clarify. Um, there's a question from Ron Rodriguez. He says, "What's your favorite street car?" Uh, I said it in the top of the session. I would probably uh, drive a 911 RS. Sorry, GT2 RS. Um, that's a really nice car. Um, So another question here from Roberto Sosa Rosa Jr. What are your future plans? Stay on open wheel or closed cockpit? Yeah, so I definitely want to keep uh, trying to reach as far as I can in open wheel. Hopefully someday I can become an IndyCar driver, and who knows, maybe a Formula One driver. But obviously it is very limited, the opportunities one has. So yeah, I think if I was not to reach those goals, then I think closed cockpit like sports cars, that would definitely be something I would consider. um, I That definitely intrigues me. Um, I have another one here from Paula Blanco Flores. She says, "What is your favorite thing about this sport? Is there anyone that you look up to that inspires you? And what are some challenges that you have experienced that you hope to overcome in the immediate future? How do you plan on tackling those challenges to further your career? And tell us your favorite memory slash anecdote in relation to racing." Okay, so I would say, starting with the first part of the question, um, the thing I most prefer about this sport is that it's just like it's a lot of passion that you dedicate, and just the competition. I mean, and you want to reach the ultimate goal, and that is obviously to win at the highest level. And just when you get there, and if you succeed, it's so great, the feeling of winning, and you just feel really satisfied with yourself. So I would say that is the most thing that my favorite thing about the sport. I'm a really competitive person, so I definitely want to achieve my goals. Um, some of the challenges I've have experienced. Wait, sorry. What are some of the challenges that I have experienced? I think some of the challenges, probably, as I said uh, in the beginning, I sometimes get like too frustrated if things don't go my way, or if I have a bad weekend, and I think that definitely gets in the way of my performance. I definitely want to correct that, and because I can't be like frustrated if things don't go my way, because it's part of the sport. It's gonna happen. It happens to everyone. You just need to get back up, and just keep rising, and just keep on doing as you've been doing, and things will pan out. Another question from Ernesto Rosas de Armas. What would you say your biggest challenge will be during this year and next year to keep racing competitively and developing as a driver? And how can Puerto Rico show support in order to help you climb the motorsports ladder? Um, I would say the biggest challenge for me this year is probably, I think the competition is really strong, so that's a big challenge. Um, yeah, you have like 5, 10 drivers. I mean, everybody can win in the series. It's so competitive. Everybody is really close to each other, and I think that's the biggest challenge, just overcoming your opponents. But as far as what can Puerto Rico do to show support to me, I would say just keep uh, your support high. I mean, every time I come here, if from a race weekend, everybody my phone just blows up. Everybody's texting me and just congratulating me. So that really helps me a lot. It lets me know that a lot of people are really keeping up uh, with my progression, and that is really satisfying to me. And I thank you all for that. Um, so I'll do another session of submitted questions, and then I'll get back to you guys for the live questions. See, a lot of people are tuning in right now. So, um, I have another question from Instagram by Paco Blanco 3. How do you prepare mentally for each race? I would say that, as I said before, I don't have a pre-race ritual or anything like that. I just, uh, I just really like to get really concentrated before the weekend. Like I, I obviously I tune out like every noise. I try not to use my phone a lot, if any. Um, and yeah, just like focus on the weekend, the task at hand, and do the job. Yeah. From Eric Neary P22 on Instagram, how difficult is it for you not having an open wheel track in Puerto Rico to practice on? I would say, I mean, I've definitely, it's one of the disadvantages I have in Puerto Rico. We currently have two tracks, but one of them is not open, and the other one is in not good conditions. So, yeah, that is uh, that track in Salinas. It's the only track, but yeah, they use it a lot for like testing track days, but the competition there is not enough for me to go to practice, and I don't really have a car to bring to the track there. So uh, yeah, definitely something I have to overcome my whole life. But yeah, as I said, it's something I've been dealing with my whole life. So I think pretty. It's pretty normal to me now. Um, uh, so the last question here from the submitted questions is from Marcos Bento on Facebook. How has your experience in F4 been your first year? Uh, I would say it's been pretty. I would say pretty okay. I mean, I I think I was definitely expecting. I mean, I would say that uh, as far as the year so far, I think it's been okay. I definitely set my standards high, so I think uh, last weekend in Mid Ohio that was definitely like super disappointing for me. Um, I think that rural Atlanta that was like the highlight of my whole year. So I really have that to bank on. And BIR, it was a pretty good weekend. So I would say overall, pretty decent year. I definitely want to keep winning and achieving podiums and all of that. So yeah. Um, okay. So as I said, now let me. Sorry. So the winner of the autograph hat is Eric Neary. Um, Eric, you can you can DM F4 US Championship for the information. Uh, so that's really cool. And then yeah, I think that concludes the session. Thank you all for for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And then you guys can follow my progress through the season on Instagram. I'm Jose underscore Blanco 46, and on Facebook Jose Blanco, and Snapchat Jose Blanco 46. So you can follow me there. And yeah, special thanks to my team, Crosslink Kiwi Motorsport, for all the job they've done all year. Uh, they've been exceptional all year. I think we're actually second in the championship, so that's very good as well. And of course, thanks to Honda, HPD, On Road Automotive, Pirelli tires, Ligier, SCCA, and Speedcom. So yeah, that concludes the session. Thank you guys. Bye.